Hello everyone. How are you? Do you know all about yourself? Or do you even know who you really are? A lot of philosophers discuss and give their own opinion, views about the topic, which is self. And one of these philosophers is this person. He is John Locke. So, before we proceed about his philosophies regarding the topic self, let me just give you a brief background of who is John Locke. This man, John Locke, was born on August 29, 1632, at the city of Rington, United Kingdom. He was an English philosopher and a physician widely regarded as one of the most influential of Enlightenment thinkers and commonly known as the father of liberalism. So, do you want more? Well, you don't have a choice. So let's go ahead with the topic and learn more about John Locke and of course, what was his contribution in philosophy of self, to be discussed by my co-members.
A few inches later.
Defining personal identity is a large undertaking in philosophy. Various attempts have been made to reach that end. Even if there were multiple attempts at it, there is no definitive answer, only just different ways of looking at things. One such attempt, and a fairly important one, that is John Locke's theory on personal identity. First, personal identity, at least in Cartesian terms, heavily involves the body and mind, or soul. The mind could be equated as the essence of self, as it houses the personality, intellect, and passion of an individual. This is the case if one presumes that these values define the identity of an individual. The body is a part of the self, but one may say that it may not necessarily paint the whole picture. In shorter terms, we are fundamentally our mind, or we are fundamentally our body. This then leads into the concern of the changes in personal identity over time. How can anyone tell that they're the same person even after many years of living? How is it that they maintain their sense of identity despite all the changes they have gone through? What constitutes the sameness of a person?
A few moments later.
One way of asserting the sameness of a person is by Cartesian term. This yield to account of personal identity, the sameness of mind or soul in this case, and the sameness of a body. But for Locke, both are not sufficient nor necessary for personal identity. As seen in his work, an essay concerning human understanding, John Locke Theory on Personal Identity, or the Lockean Memory Theory, posit that self can be defined as thinking intelligent being that can consider itself at itself. At different times and places, it could be said that a person is the same person as he or she was in the past virtue of sameness of his or her consciousness. This can be interpreted as self having memory. By Locke's assertion, the self can only be extended at which one memory can reach. Anything outside of one memory or experience cannot be attributed to one personal identity. Memory is, by Locke's words, a sufficient and necessary condition of personal identity.
The self of the past and the present is one and the same. One is held accountable for things that they have done in the past. But anything that has been forgotten may as well not have happened at all. This affects the accountability of a person. By Locke's assertion, one cannot be held accountable for any misdeeds he or she has done in the past if they do not hold memories of it. This also ties into another one of Locke's assertions. Since the sameness of consciousness is a necessary and sufficient condition for personal identity, if consciousness can be transferred from person A to person B, then person A would persist. Even if there was a change in the soul, as long as consciousness is the same, then person A would be the same person. A way to put it would be that identity is transitive.
Meanwhile,
Of course, as with this theory, there will be some opposition that will test its limits. One such opposition is from Thomas Reid, using the transitive nature of identity proposed by Locke. It has come to know as the brave officer paradox. It states that a young officer, which we would call the midpoint in life, remembers being hit in the head as a young boy because he stole an apple. Much later in life, when the young officer has now become an old general, he remembers being brave as an officer, but not recalling being hit on the head as a child. But the problem lies in not remembering a specific event that led to becoming brave earlier in his life. In response to this, H.P. Rice contributed to amendment to Locke's theory. It is called the total temporary states, wherein life could be divided up into person stages. Every person stage is composed of a collection of experiences that person has at that point in time. Not all experiences survive the transition to another stages, but some elements of these experiences remain to be recalled, which is where the temporary nature comes from. So it should not necessarily have to remember all experiences of a person to be the same as self. The person only needs to remember elements of experience from being young and was gained from earlier his life. This theory paved way for new ways of tackling the discussion of personal identity. While it may not be perfect, not all theories are in that sense.